everybody's like, yeah, Trump's going to be gone, but he's not. Like, he's not going to follow the same practices and the same standards that every ex-president does. Like, you leave, you disappear to allow the new president to assume his role as the leader of the country. Trump's not going to do that. Trump's going to go home with more time on his hands and continue to tweet. And the same people that are willing to risk hypothermia or heat stroke in the same week are going to be the same people that are going to be on his team. I liken it to, I said yesterday, I kind of feel like we're celebrating the fact that he lost, like townsfolk that were celebrating setting Freddie on fire. You know,
let's go back to Kamala Harris and the 2024 election. This is a woman who didn't even make it to Iowa because she was so unpopular. She started out with a bang and ended with a thud. And where she gained her popularity was those back rooms you're talking about. The donors love her. She's very good at getting them to cough up their wallets. And there's the fake notion that identity politics is going to, like, if you have a black woman running, well, black people will vote for her. That didn't happen. This theory has been proven wrong so many times during the course of my lifetime. And as far as I'm concerned, if there's a
like that, it's kind of like how the GOP assumed that when Hillary Clinton got out that everybody would back Sarah Palin because she was a woman.
Exactly. And so I think it's very important to have representation. I'm a big fan of that for every, by the way, Peter, your story is very affecting and very effective at communicating that. And Jahi, you brought up your issue with your neighbors. All of that is true. But in order for that to be worth anything, those people have to be quality people. They have to do so, like in those positions, in those jobs, not your neighbors or your school friends, but when you're talking about politicians, in order for that to work, you have to do something. Barack Obama was not my favorite guy. He is very smart, but and in some ways is a very good politician to Democrats. But here's what he did and why we are where we are. And I think it honestly directly led to Trump. Was he went out, he had this coalition in 2008 of basically progressives chomping at the bit to do more. As soon as he got elected, he actually murdered that movement. He disbanded them, and he wrote in his book that he did it because it was too hard to maintain. So fast forward to the passage of the ACA, a very complicated boondoggle for the insurance companies and the pharmaceuticals. And it was a Republican plan written in effect by Bob Dole, and the experiment went live under Mitt Romney. This had extreme Republican support when it was being discussed in the initial phases, and then the Tea Party swept through and basically said anything Obama does, we will have nothing but scorn for it.
Wasn't it?
And so it was a policy of obstruction from there forward. His response
wasn't it Mitch McConnell that said, we're going to try to make this Obama's Waterloo?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he came very close to it for the following reason. Like, the ACA was introduced with two big cost controls. The first was the public option. The second was the mandate. So the individual mandate required that if you weren't going to get Obamacare, you'd have to pay a tax. They didn't want to call it that, but that's what it was. So he lost the mandate argument in the courts, and before it even got off the ground, he took out the public option. So basically all you had was this giant non-cost controlling monstrosity that I work with on a personal level and a professional level every day, and I have since its inception. It's better than what was there before, but the problem, going back to your point about messaging, Peter, is there are people born today who've known nothing but the ACA. And as they get older, they're not going to have the system that came before it to remember. And the system that came before it was terrible. But the one thing it shared with the ACA was employer-based healthcare. So now we're in the middle of a pandemic, 60 million people out of work, 5 million small businesses that will never open their doors again. The employer-based healthcare has proven itself, I think, beyond a shadow of a doubt, to be the most ineffective healthcare system. And the people who know that better than anyone else are those rural voters that Trump in 2016 and again in 2020 went out to and said, your healthcare costs have doubled, which they have. They've slowed. That's one thing they're not going to sell. But the rise in costs have slowed, but they're still double for a lot of people. And the more money you make, right before you hit $200,000, the more you're paying because you're not eligible for Medicaid.
Well, Trump,
and you're not
Trump take the component away for you having to pay some sort of fine if you did not have proper coverage.
That's the mandate.
That was the mandate, wasn't it?
Wasn't it? Yeah, the mandate, which was one of the components that was going to kind of pay for this, right?
Well, it was going to control costs. They didn't. In other words, they were always going to rise.
Took the air out of the tire and said, "Look, it's not running well."
Right.
Coming from Britain, I have a personal experience of this where our health insurance is national. We pay taxes into the national system, and then regardless of who you are, you get service. So my brother's currently being treated for bowel cancer. Never seen a bill. He's never going to see a bill because it's all covered, right?
Wow.
He's paid his, we call it a stamp. He's paid his stamp for 30 years as he's been working. And now he gets it back. And it's obviously an insurance system, so it's a gamble. If everybody gets bowel cancer, the system collapses. But not everybody does, right? And there's been a big move to preventative medicine where people have checkups and they find these things earlier. His was found quite early. And so that's less expensive. And that's just sensible. And for me, I tell this story to anybody who wants to listen, but I just don't know enough people about that sort of system where, you say that to Mitch McConnell, oh, they're socialists. That's a socialist system. No, Mitch, it works. And it's a matter of funding. People will complain about the health system in Britain because the current Conservative government don't fund it to the level they should. The tax input is not spread out as well as it should be.
Just a quick sentence, and then I do have to go. Thank you both very much, by the way. This was fun. I'd love to do it again.
Okay.
Peter, it was fun meeting you. The thing I want to leave you with is what's starting to appear on medical bills is treatment for the COVID, which
I just read that. Yeah, I just read that today. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Pass the buck.
Good night.
All right, take care, man. Hopefully see you soon.